So this is a little bit different because I need to retrofit a rental management system into this beach delivery app or system. So what does that mean? It means that there's yet a new service, and we'll call this service once it boots up. We'll call this service, first of all, hold up. This is .NET Standard or .NET Core. I think we want to do, what are we going to call this? This would be called rental management. Is rental management a good name for service? Is management a good name for a backend service? Probably not. How would this work? This would be courier dot rental. We know it's rental. Is it just rental service? That okay. .NET Standard. Should I be doing .NET 5? I guess everything's .NET 5 now. Okay. I wonder what this is going to be like. I don't even know what .NET 5 is. Okay. I honestly don't know what .NET 5 is. But what I do know is I probably should have named this specification. So let's get rid of this. So I'm going to remove and this will be deleted. And then I'll say that I'm adding a new project. Add a new project, and this will be rental service dot specification. All right. And so there will be operations, and then there will be a language. Okay. And so over here we have operations, but I don't know what operations is right now. It would be type what? offerings, I don't know, equal given the token. You will get a async result of rental equipment, rental equipment, or you could just call it equipment. And then else it's an error description. If it's not successful, something like that. And so what do you want to do here? This is rental service namespace. So we know that type token equals, and we should be able to just straight borrow these definitions. Something like that. Okay. And this is a access to subject ID maybe, which you have to say type subject ID equals string, something like that. And hey, I have someone viewing me. Okay. API keys, same thing, right? So you have type API key equals string, something like that. Okay. So we want to import language. Okay. What's async result? You say type async results. I'm going to take a e, and it's going to be a async of a result that takes a e. Okay. Am I missing something? Another angle bracket, maybe. Okay. Yeah. Control Shift B. Be built. No. So then it wants to know error description, type, error description equals string. And it wants to know what equipment is. So that, say type equipment equals, and what is equipment? What is this? Oh, that's Raj. Okay. So equipment is probably equipment ID string, and then name string, and you probably I have name of name string. Then you have description string of, and then you have price, and then that could be a double. Okay. I feel like it's really a float, but whatever. So equipment has an ID, a name, description, and a price. Okay. Control Shift B. And we build. Okay. So we have offerings that will take a token and return, if successful. Oh, this is supposed to be equipments. Hold up. So you have type equipments equal equipment sequence like that. Okay. Ugh. What else? What are the core operations for a rental service? Did I miss something? Price and unit or I don't know. String. Is unit the right word? So it's like if it is, then I need to capitalize the U. So you have the price, uh, and then you have the unit, but maybe that should be rental price, and then that would be separated. So like what I mean is, what if you had rental cost, or maybe it's just called cost, and then it's some double value, and then this unit, which more than likely would be an hour, right? Price and then unit, because I can't think of a more interesting or descriptive word other than unit to represent hour. Um, okay, so then we just have cost in here for the price. Oh boy. Then we have that right there. Okay. Control Shift B. Um, some of this stuff maybe can go on one line, perhaps. Okay. What else? So operations for rental services offerings, given a token, you return equipments. Uh, I feel like equipments is not grammatically correct. Equipment is already plural, right? And so it's just that right there. Equipment item. Something like that maybe. Um, or it could just be item. Boom. And then equipment is items. Maybe. Maybe that works. So for this service, someone passes in a token, they get authenticated, and they get returned equipment as a list or sequence of offerings, aka what shows up on the menu for them to choose from. And price, description, name, and ID of that particular equipment item. All right, that makes sense to me. Is there anything else? Well, they probably want to rent. Okay. So what does that mean? If they rent, then given a token, then they'll have some type of async result, right? But it's not really token, is it? No. If they want to rent, then it's really going to be a type rental request that will take a token, and it will also have the uh, equipment ID, something like that, which we know is string. Okay, equipment ID. All right, that's what they're requesting. Is that all? I think so. So rental request. Is that? Yeah. Now, if someone, I feel like these offerings are fine, but I feel like it probably can be expanded, right? So, do we just want to do arbitrary offerings, or do we want to have categorized offerings, such as? Well, that's a good question. Should we categorize it for rental? I mean, it's who maybe. Okay, so how does this work? Rental category, right? So type, or we just say category equals, and then what is that? It's going to be category. Can't spell category. ID. It's going to be string, and then it's going to be equipment, right? Which is equipment. Okay. So what does that mean? Potentially, it means that maybe we have category request like that. Okay. Which means that this is a category request, which will take a token. Okay. And with that, we'll get equipment. Okay. So this rental service will expose operations for returning a category of items, as well as respond to a rent request. I should call it request rental. Okay. Uh-oh. That means that this should probably be called request category. Okay. Uh, all right. So we have that. Mm, If you request rental, it's an item. Okay, we corrected that. Is there anything else? Request category, request item. I really need to say request. Okay. So what else are the core operations of a rental service? Category and rental. Is it category or is it really browse? And what you browse is a category. And I'm not sure. If you browse, you put in the category request, or is it view? Uh, view seems wrong because that's like UI centric, and this is a service. Uh, I guess it's, I don't know what you call it. Is it query? Category? I don't know, man. Or you just call it category. I think we're back to this again. It seems like that fits for right now. Okay. So what else? What are the other operations for a rental service? Category, rental, category, and rent. Okay. And it'll be okay or error. And if it is, then if it's successful, it's not really an item, right? This request takes a equipment ID. That's fine. And it takes a token, describe who that requester is. And then you have a rental receipt. Or it's not even a rental receipt, it's a customer receipt. Okay. You say, what is a customer receipt? And you can say that a customer receipt is going to have um, it's going to have the item. Or it can have is it item or is it equipment, which is a items, right? And let's say equipment. Okay. And there's going to be a timestamp, just daytime, right? Okay. And it is a subject ID, subject ID, which is the customer. Okay. So should I just call it customer? Probably. Customer ID. All right. Is there anything else? Well, there should probably be both, right? Because a token doesn't necessarily have to be a customer. So we'll still have subject ID. All right. Okay, so what did we just accomplish here? We said that the rent, you have a rental request that, if successful, is going to yield a customer receipt, which is a subject ID. Equipment, customer receipt is a customer ID. Customer ID, equipment, and the timestamp. Okay. And so, is there anything else? Oh, you probably want to have location. We call this destination. Okay. So that destination is going to be a coordinate. And we see that our coordinate is the structure right here. We can throw that over here. We probably want to go ahead and perform our due diligence and make this serializable. Okay. That's probably what we should do. We're going to have to do it eventually. And so, um, and then fill out this part. Boom, fill out that part. Boom, fill out that part. Boom, fill out that part. Boom. Okay. What else, Willis? What else can we make serializable? This rental request. Yeah, you look like a good candidate. Come here. And so we can say that the token is going to be token, and the equipment ID is going to be. Oh, come here. I just did something wrong. Equipment ID. Like that. Okay. And so over here, category request, we probably want to follow the same pattern in which we say token and we say category ID and we say equipment. And so we throw that there and we throw this here. Okay. And item, we need to handle you too. This is becoming tedious, man. So, are you still viewing me or did you tap out? Hold up. You still viewing me, or she is, whoever it is. Okay, so, boom, and boom, and boom, and boom. So that's price, and then this is description, and then this is name, and then this is equipment ID. Okay, all right, Willis, we're almost there. And it looks like what I wanted to put on a single line is going back to multiple lines. Okay, and so we have this over here. We have cost, or should I say price, and we have unit. All right, so we say unit, it's going to be that right there. We say price is going to be this right here. And we want to make that a data contract. Yes. Make that a data contract, Control Shift B, and we should be covered for the most part. All right, we should be covered. All right, so and we return to the same two categories or same two operations that we deem as core category with the category request and a rent with the rental request. Okay, is that it? I gotta think about this. There's also like pickup time or return time. All right, so rent, earn, return time. I don't know if there's a better word for return time, all right, or a better whatever. You could just call it return. Okay, and so this return, or you could say agreement. How about that? Agreement. There we go. It's a rental agreement. And so that is going to take a, if someone rents, they get a customer receipt. A customer receipt probably should have an agreement as part of it. A rental request doesn't really need an agreement, but a receipt should. Okay. So this agreement is type agreement equals, what is an agreement? Because didn't we already establish that an item has a cost, which is the price in the unit? So the question is an agreement before or after? And is the price or is the cost an agreement? Is it this? Agreement, price, and then the unit. So price in hours, right? Maybe that's the agreement. Okay. I think it looks okay. So then you have the category that has equipment, which is a sequence of items in which each item has name, description, and agreement, in which the definition of agreement is the price and the unit of measure, really. Okay. And so is this really required? I don't think so, because the customer receipt has the equipment in it, in which agreement is a nested item of the equipment item. It makes sense to me. Yeah. Okay. I feel like these are the two core operations of a rental service. You look at a category and you rent. There's also categories. Okay. So there's categories, in which you have a categories request. But that would just be token, right? That would just be token. And it would just be equipment. Or would it? Equipment is just items, but now we have to have a type equipment category. Say category first. Hold up. Category. And then a category will have a name. It'll have a description. and it'll have a category ID. This. Okay. I guess we should go ahead and make this serializable as well. Hey, look at this right here. It's supposed to be agreement. I don't know how to spell agreement. Okay, so yeah, messing up. That's supposed to be agreement right there too. Okay, so uh, 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 so that and that and that. Okay. So we introduced something called category, which is probably going to conflict with this category up here. Maybe not, because they're both in different namespaces. Um, and this is supposed to be called data transfer. Data transfer. I butchered that. Data transfer. And I like my imports to be a little bit more ordered. Okay. So we have this. I don't think I actually did anything yet. We have this category that has a category ID, name, description, and then last but not least, a category has equipment. Okay. Which means that category takes a category request and it returns a category. It returns a data transfer dot category. Okay. All right. So now what? Same thing here. Now we have categories, right? So now we have this notion of type categories equal category sequence, like that. And so you, my friend, you go over here. Okay. And that should build. So core operations for a rental service are retrieving category, given the category request. That takes the category ID. And category request does not take equipment. Yeah, I'm tripping right there. Okay. Categories, you just take the token, and then rent is a rental request given a token and equipment ID. But I feel like it should really hold up. Should it be a rental request or a list of rental requests, or translate it, or it could just be a list of equipment IDs. equipment IDs, equipment IDs. All right, so your rental request has a token and then a list of equipment IDs. And that will return, if successful, a customer receipt of what? Uh-oh. Of equipment, great, because that's already plural. The destination, okay. Timestamp. Oh, but we go back to this agreement again, right? This agreement is the cost and the per hour. Okay, that's the agreement, but it doesn't specify the expected return or the return expectation. Okay, so you have a rental request. And that rental request probably should introduce another field called expected return time. I don't know of a good term for this, but it's expected. Well, it's called deadline. How about that? Deadline. Deadline. And so then there's another question. Well, I mean, a deadline is like date time, right? But then it's a question of, do we make this granular? So is it deadline for everything? It's just one deadline, or are there? Should we be granular and we have a series of deadlines, a deadline per item? I feel like if we do a deadline per item, that'll provide more control. Like I feel like it's just a better design. So you have these equipment IDs, but I feel like this should really be bundled with equipment deadlines. So what does that mean? Well, if we type in, we introduce a new structure called equipment deadline. We just call it deadline. Okay, equals. And then we have our equipment ID, which is a string, and then our deadline, which is the date time. Okay. Then I think we can have a sequence of deadlines potentially. So let me first make this serializable. Okay. So we can plug this deadline now into our rental request, in which it is a deadlines. Okay. And I'm not sure if deadline is still the right word. Hold up. Instead, we could say type deadlines equal deadline sequence like that. Which means that we can finally get rid of this over here and do that. Uh, okay. So a rental request fix a token, some deadlines. Put that up here. Okay. And I feel like deadlines are, it should be called deadlines or it should be called agreement. Okay. So deadline. I feel like this deadline should be called agreement. Equipment ID. I have deadline dot deadline. For that return time, it's the same thing. Okay, so let's call deadline agreement, which is going to be a conflict because we already have agreement. Agreement. That. So now we have this agreements, which is agreements, which is agreements. All right. So a rental request takes a token, and then it has this concept of agreements, which is equipment ID and deadline, which is the same thing as return time. The deadline is slightly shorter in characters. Okay, but this agreement doesn't encapsulate the cost of the equipment ID. So, which means that if we look at the agreement up here, we see that it's price and unit. Well, that seems like we need to rename this back to cost again. Okay. So we have cost back. We revert it back to cost. All right. So we can price or cost. The cost. It costs something per unit. Usually that's the context of cost. I would argue. Okay. So so you have this item, and that's maybe that's it. Hold up. So price and unit is cost. All right. So the question is now, do I include item in this thing I call agreement? Um, I think so. So you have item. For that item. Agreement item, which is equipment ID, name, whatever. And then you have the deadline. I think that's it, man. I mean, we got to update this right here. We got to make sure that we didn't butcher up here. Cost. Yep, that's fine. Fine, fine, fine. Go up here. Cost. Unit price. That stuff looks fine to me. Control Shift B. So when you rent, you have a rental request, returns a customer receipt. Uh-oh. And the customer receipt has equipment and equipment has a item. That doesn't seem right. So we go back down to our agreement. And so now we want to revisit this and say that our customer receipt has a not equipment, but an agreement. Okay. And it may be agreements. Okay. So agreements, agreements, like that. All right. And so our customer receipt has the customer ID, agreements, destination, and timestamp. That looks pretty solid to me. All right. So this agreement is item plus deadline, and the item is equipment ID, name, description, and cost. That looks right on. All right. So if we revisit this, we have three core operations of rental service. They can browse categories, category, and rent. All right. They can rent. Okay. Is there anything else? I think there's a return. So do return. Of course, that is a core operation of a rental service. I feel like category. I feel like there's probably a quote in here as well, but I'm going to leave that out for right now. So there's a return, right? And so there's a call this return request that, if successful, is going to result in a return receipt. Um, which means that this customer receipt, that's probably still fine. It's a rental receipt for the customer. I don't like it. Call it rental receipt. Why is this thing so? Hold up. So we're going to call this rental receipt, and we're going to call this other one return receipt. So this will be called return receipt. Returned receipt, maybe. I don't know. Return or returned receipt. Rental request, rental receipt, return request, return receipt. I'll just keep it like that. And so, what does a return request look like? A type return request probably looks like a. In order to have a return request, you have to have a rental receipt. I feel like that's probably a good way to go. Um, okay. And let's get this serializable. So you need to have a rental receipt if you're going to return something. And with that, is there anything else? Oh, yeah, you need a token. Oh, do you? there's already well, the token has the API key. So yeah, okay. Where is it at? I'll just say token. Okay. So return request, given the token, and the rental receipt. That looks okay to me. And you'll get a return receipt, right? So I guess I should copy paste this and say return receipt. And that would be a return request. The date time attached to it. So the return receipt has a return request. And a date time. I feel like this should be on the path. Return request, return receipts, which has a return request. I think this is it. Token, 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 token. Control Shift B. And okay, so the core operations for a rental service: browse categories, browse a category, rent, and return. I I think that's the core operation, right? So create a Git repository. We'll call that rental service. And this is just the spec, which is fine right now. It's listed under private. I'm content with this. Now that's just the spec. That's not the Azure Functions interface or endpoint, and it's not the data gateway. But this is okay for now. Yeah, I'm gonna sign off right now. So it's been fun. That one viewer that is listening to me in the background. We'll catch up. All right. See ya.